What's up guys, Jim the Collector here, back again with another unboxing and review video, and today we are checking out none other than Captain Jack Sparrow himself. Now this is a figure that I have eagerly been waiting for. This isn't the artisan version, it is of course the deluxe, but for me I thought that this version sufficed for this character and for this representation on my shelf, especially with the amount of figures that we have coming out these days. So guys, without further ado, let's get stuck right into the unboxing.
Alright guys, so our first view is of course the box art, and this is really nicely done. As you can see, it is a huge box. It's definitely not small. I mean, you can see the size of my hand compared to that skull. This is a big chunky boy. Obviously you've got Disney up top here and then Pirates of the Caribbean. I do like the kind of metallic gold sheen that they have on the embossed writing down here that says Jack Sparrow, so that's nicely done. If we flip it around, you've got a bit more information on the box there. This is obviously the bit that we pull out. On the back's all your usual kind of information with your shiny Disney logo. More of the same on the side, and then to be honest, the tops and bottoms are nothing to write home about, but it is nice to see, and it does slide out quite easily, he says as he struggles to then slide the box out. But there we go. All right, so you've got more artwork here. This is quite nice actually, I quite like that. Flipping that on round, and then of course we do have our look at the slip cover. Really nice artwork here, pictures of the figure, which is good to see as well. I do like it when they use the actual final product for the photos on these. You can see DX down there and a bit more information about the figure and the craftsmanship that goes into the DX releases, which we know a DX release doesn't always mean that much anymore. But there we go, here is our first look at Sparrow. This slips on off like that. If you guys have obviously had DX figures before, this is nothing too new to you, but there is a lot more plastic than I remember seeing in DXs of old. But we do get, of course, our slip bit here. A nice foam packaging. I do wish they would do this with more figures. Third Party seems to do it with all of them, so I don't see why Hot Toys doesn't. But that is Sparrow, and we'll check him out a little bit later. We're going to go through the accessories first. So on our first tray is essentially all of our hands, our hat, and that alternate, what do you call that? Alternate faceplate. And then under this, we have yet more accessories. So we have a lot of stuff here. We've got his swords, pistols, some bits that we have attached to the belt. Of course, we do have his compass, and that is the black pearl inside the jar. And you've got the lantern and the chest full of gold. And of course, in the final tray, and the reason this box is so heavy is the diorama base. And that is the first thing that we're going to have a look at. All right, so let's crack open the base now, and I am excited to see this because whenever I used to see the older versions of this figure, what is it, the DX38 I think it is, correct me in the comments below, I always thought this looked like one hell of a display piece, and I don't think I was wrong. This is nicely done, and excuse me for a sec while I just mess around with this articulation here as it does spin. Now my thoughts are paintwork. Really like the paintwork on this. It looks very nice and authentic. It does look like real wood, but it is plastic. One thing I do note, these bits here feel a little bit, maybe a little bit prone to damage, a little bit weak. I would like them to be a bit sturdier. But there we go, that is neither here nor there. The rope's real rope, it's not molded plastic or anything like that, so that's a nice little feature. But yeah, this is really nice, guys. I absolutely love this. And it really does make it for a nice display piece. I almost wish you got more of a black pearl diorama to kind of go along this. Maybe that's something someone will commission one day, but we'll see. So that is the wheel. Then of course you do have the actual base, and this again is really nicely done. I do like these kind of water effects here. You've obviously got the Jack Sparrow plaque on the top, and guys, this is lovely. Now it is all plastic, it's not wood in any shape or form, but that's fine. But you've got so much details, even like you've got some rope in the crevices here. This is quite nicely done. Oh, that's a bit bendy. Be careful on that bit, guys. But yeah, this is really nice. And of course, This does slide in to the grooves inside here, but it is a friction fit, and in fact it does wobble a little bit, which I've seen some complaints on, so I have to play with that, but I do think it just kind of sits on here. It doesn't slot in. It might have been a nice thing for them to do, to include some proper rails or clips in here so it sits in snug, but it works, so we have that. Alright, and now accessories, and he comes with a decent amount of stuff, which is what you kind of like to see for a DX release. So we'll save this bit for last, and then firstly we will check out this tray here. So let's open this on up. God, there's something so satisfying about unboxing things that just never gets old. Never gets old. We've got a stray compass there. See if we can get that back in. There we go, nice and neat. All right, so here is a first quick look at all the accessories. So we do have his cutlass, his dagger, his 2 flintlock pistols. Of course, we do have his telescope and, is it telescope? Telescope. A few attachments for his belt, as long as the compass, and then the other bits and pieces as well. Now, let's check out some of this stuff. So let's check out that sword. There we go, so that slides on out, and here we do have the sword, and this is quite nicely done, I won't lie. It is of course plastic, but it's a nice soft plastic, so it doesn't feel like it will break too much. It's a bit pliable, so it has a bit of give. It's really nicely painted. You can tell it's a plastic sword. It does have a nice sheen to it, as you can see from the camera here, so nice metallic paintwork, but I do wish they kept the metal sword. I kind of understand why they didn't. I hear it's difficult through customs, but I'd have preferred a metal sword here. But nonetheless, it does look quite nice. Then of course you have his dagger, which is very similar. It's a nice metallic kind of paint sheen to it. It's a darker metal or plastic paint, I suppose, but darker metallic paint. But it does look quite nice. Moving on to his 2 pistols. These are really nicely done actually. The paintwork's quite intricate throughout. I do like the detailing here, which is nice to see. There's no movable parts, which is a bit of a shame, but they're really nicely painted and they're gonna look really cool on display. Now onto some of his personal effects. I'll do these both together. So you do of course have his compass that does not point north. It points of course to what you want most, and his trusty telescope as well. It would have been nice, and I know I'm asking a lot, if this was collapsible and extendable. That would have been quite fun, but nonetheless it is painted really nicely, that kind of brass color, and as you can see it's got a sheen to it. The compass is really nice. I'm glad that they didn't half-ass the compass. It's really nicely detailed. I almost wish there was a dial that would spin around in here just from movement. That would have been quite cool, but the paintwork is absolutely astonishing, so I'm glad that they did the compass justice. All right, so I'm not going to talk about the belt attachments. We'll see those later once we've attached them. But one thing I really love from this set is, of course, the black pearl in the jar. This is really nicely done. It is plastic, it's not metal, of course, but it's got a nice kind of sand effect for it. You can see the black pearl inside. Not sure how close I can get my camera to this, but you can see it sitting around in there. It's such a nice little accessory, and it's nice to have in some form the black pearl along with our Jack Sparrow as well. And then this of course is his lantern, which again is quite nicely done. Now it does come with batteries, which I have already popped in, and it looks like this when it's lit up. Now it does look really nice lit up, I won't lie. It has kind of a nice glow. Obviously I've got lights on it, but you can kind of see it reflected in my hand. It has a nice brightness to it, which is nice to see. And I like the paintwork, really kind of gives it that real flame glow effect. Unfortunately, it is the small batteries that we're used to, so I do think it won't last very long, similar to a lot of these. I mean, we've seen it with the Iron Man and the old Star Wars lightsaber arms that we used to see. They just don't last very long, so I understand why they went batteries, to be quite honest, because obviously he's meant to hold it. I do want to see if there's a way that we can jerry-rig this so we can at least have it in the display, kind of maybe on the base in the background where it's lit up permanently with everything else. That will be quite nice, but nonetheless this is a nice piece. And finally we do of course have the treasure chest, which again, like everything else, is nicely done. The gold's well painted, it has a good sheen to it. The only thing I'll say is the actual chest itself does look a bit plasticky. It's got good paintwork and it's got good molding to it, but I'd say that it's a bit too shiny almost. It might be to kind of give it a wet effect, but I'd have liked it to be more of a kind of a dry wood look, and I think that would make it look a little bit more realistic. But then nonetheless, it's a nice piece to have. I mean, how can you have a pirate without a treasure chest full of gold? So it's a nice accessory, and I'm glad they included it. All right, then on to Jack's hat. And now I'm really of two minds about this hat. Now my first thought is it's nicely done. Like, it feels like is it leather? Someone let me know. I think it might be leather, but it feels like a really nice leather material. It's got a good softness to it, you know. It feels like actual fabric rather than a molded plastic piece, and I really like that. My complaint, it's not the best representation of Jack's hat in the film. Like when it's on, it looks a little bit oversized. These bits should be slightly higher up as well, so that's a little bit of a shame. So although I like its materials and it looks really nice, like it's nicely done, don't get me wrong, it looks like a real miniature leather hat, but the shaping and the actual overall design isn't quite what I was hoping to see. All right, next we have the somewhat controversial, I guess, Jack Sparrow hands, and the reason for that is these hands in the fabric here from his right hand. The reason it's controversial, it's going to be hard for me to show you here, but it should have, there are some molds in between the knuckles here, which should be painted brown to represent kind of, I think they're like leather straps that he has wound through his hand, a bit like a boxing wrap almost. So there are meant to be straps painted through here, and you can still see where they're molded. Obviously, these are the same molds that we've seen in previous iterations of this figure. And if I'm being honest, 100% honest, if someone hadn't have pointed that out, I would not have noticed. And I think that's why this has been out for a little while and nobody picked up on it for quite a while. But, or maybe they did, maybe people saw it and didn't mention it, but I would not have noticed this if it wasn't mentioned. Does that excuse it? Not really. Hot Toys obviously either forgot, or which isn't good enough, or cut a corner, which really isn't ideal. Does it break the figure for me? No, of course not. It's such a small detail, and these are such nicely done hands as well. This is an actual fabric throughout, so I really do like seeing that. So it's a really nice piece. One other thing I'll say about these, oh my gosh, they give off a really strong smell of plastic, which is quite interesting. But as for the details, apart from those knuckles, these are nicely done. You've got the tattoos on his knuckles, the rings look well painted as well. Absolutely lovely, and a lot of attention to detail, apart of course from the threads that should be in between the knuckles. And of course we do get our alternate faceplate. This is the kind of smirking look, which this is just Jack Sparrow 100%. I absolutely love this faceplate. I think it looks fantastic. Likeness wise, spot on. It's hard to kind of work it in your mind when it's not attached to the rest of the figure, but absolutely fantastic piece. The paint apps throughout are really nicely done. The mold work on the beard is really good as well. Their beards, again, as good almost as their sculpted hair. These are of course a soft plastic, they're not rooted. This isn't the rooted version. I'm not even sure if the rooted version comes with rooted tassels, beard tassels, but no, the good thing about these is I don't worry too much they're gonna break. I'm not gonna put that too much to the test, but absolutely phenomenal face sculpt. All right guys, and finally we do of course have the figure itself in all of its glory, and let's get him out of this packaging. There we go, he slides on out nice and easy, and bosh, there we are. Ladies and gents, look at that. It looks phenomenal. That is incredible. We've got a lot of plastic to get off. His dreads, so obviously this is the non-rooted one. Now I went back and forth about getting obviously the artisan edition. I was hoping to potentially pick it up, but then if I'm being honest, I had a look at the non-rooted hair, and again some of this is actual rooted hair throughout here, which is really nice to see, to be honest, but I almost preferred this version. The dreads on the artisan one looks a bit too chunky for me. These fit really perfectly. They're quite nice and soft, so it doesn't really kind of impact articulation at all, and it's just absolutely phenomenal. The one thing bit disappointed then. This is sculpted into his bandana. I kind of would have preferred to see that maybe not sculpted. And now I may be wrong, but the band is quite plain. I always thought there was detailing on this. Now I didn't rewatch Dead Men Tell No Tales for quite a while. I have just rewatched the initial trilogy, and I remember this being having printing, not being plain. So that's a bit of a shame. And of course it does have a shiny plastic look to it, which is a bit of a letdown, but that sculpt is phenomenal. Now let's get this plastic off the body. All right, and there we go. He is freed from his plastic bonds. And guys, I couldn't be happier with this piece. Now, as someone that joined this hobby after the initial versions of this figure released, I've always wanted this in the collection, but I've never wanted to pay the prices that I saw going for this. So when I had an opportunity to own one from you, I just couldn't pass up that opportunity. So I just had to jump into this. And now my first thoughts on this, again, I haven't experienced the original, so if there's any shortcomings compared to that, let me know in the comments below. But this outfit, guys, is beautiful. Look at the detail. You got all the buckles throughout. Of course, yes, they're all plastic. There's no metal in here, but it's so nicely done. Obviously the coat as well, you got all the buttons down the side, which I know I'm going to stress about falling off, along with all of this. And the tailoring on this is absolutely fantastic. Similar to the Joker, because he's a layered figure, it's easy to make him look too bulky, but I think they've nailed this, and he doesn't look too bulky at all. And he's got really nice articulation throughout as well. Obviously he's got double bends on the elbows. His arms can go up pretty well to the sides. There you go. So you got good articulation throughout there. He has some nice ab crunch and movement. It's a little bit limited, obviously. He's got good maneuverability throughout his head. Maneuverability, that's not a word, but he's got good movement throughout his head. And now the joints feel solid, but they're not the stiffest joints that I've ever felt on a 1/6 scale body. So that's going to be interesting to see how that stands the test of the time. But gosh, look at all this. And of course, this is magnet. There's a magnet in here, which kind of helps it stay attached down to the body so it doesn't puff out. And that's a really nice bit of attention to detail there. Down to the trousers and the boots. So the boots are a suede fabric throughout, which is really nice. You've got good ankle mobility on this, side to side, front and back. That's obviously just a ball joint in there. Obviously no toe articulation, but that's fine. Good double bend in the knees, which is nice to see. And you can pretty much do anything you want with this guy. This is like not quite Darth Maul level, but you can pull off some really gnarly poses. Speaking of pulling off poses, guys, I think that's what we're going to do now. We're going to get all these accessories, including the extras, on the belt, and we're going to put him through some poses and some final thoughts. Catch you in a sec.
Here we are with pose number 1, and as always I like to start off with a nice walking pose. Now sometimes balancing these figures in a walking pose while it revolves around the turntable is a bit of a stressful affair, but not with this figure. No, despite his deep love for rum, Jack is balancing with ease, and that's really helped by how well his body poses. There's solid range of motion combined with sturdy feeling joints, especially in the ankles, makes this a real posing powerhouse. Pose number 2, and of course we had to get that awesome diorama base involved with that smirking head sculpt. I am in love with how awesome this looks all together like this. It has some real shelf presence, and having 2 sculpts allows for so much more versatility in posing. I will say, however, that it was quite a faff getting him in this pose, and that's because there isn't a lot of space on the base, and because the wheel doesn't actually clip into place, it can be a bit annoying to work with. Okay, so for pose number 3, we have him out of his jacket again, showcasing how versatile this figure is, especially when it comes to his display options. Even the base, as you can see here, can be changed to allow for different poses, and removing the wheel gives you a bit more real estate to work around with. It's great to be able to use the accessories for different effects here as well, with the chest acting as both a prop and a step to make the pose look more dynamic. We can see a slight limitation in the outfit here as well though, where his trousers are starting to rise up, so do keep that in mind when posing this guy like this. The figure itself is beautifully designed. The outfit is tailored to perfection. You can see the multiple layers don't make it look bulky, and it's really nicely weathered to give a pretty accurate representation of what we see on screen. The two head sculpts feature a likeness that I would say is an easy 9 out of 10, with maybe a slight edge to the more serious stoic sculpt. While not rooted, his dreads do look really nice, and you do still get some wool hair as well, plus they don't hinder articulation in any way that I've seen, so that's a really nice bonus. Now the biggest letdown though is definitely that plastic bandana. It looks toyetic. The fabric one does look a lot nicer in the artisan. I do wish Hot Toys would have stretched the fabric bandana to this release. It's not, I mean, Artisan's wool hair, right? Look at Artisan Anakin, the fabric on that is pleather, not leather. So I feel like they could have just really perfected this figure here and sorted this out. But then maybe they didn't want to blur those lines too much between such similar figures. The hat is also a letdown here. It isn't quite the right shape, plus it looks overly large, giving off a slightly comical look. Now, I really love the accessories included here. Honestly, the only thing I'm missing is probably a jar of dirt, although I know that is the wrong film, and a bottle of rum would have been nice as well, but I suppose we do get the black pearl inside the bottle, so I can't complain too much. Now, one letdown is that we don't have die-cast swords. I really think if Hot Toys are doing 2.0s, it should be improvements, and I feel like plastic swords are a step back, not a step forward, so I'm not quite so happy with that. All in all, I've had this figure for a good month now, and I'm still absolutely smitten with it. So for a rating, I'm going to give this figure an 8 out of 10. My only real complaints on this are the hat and the sculpted bandana, but with the excellent sculpts, the accessories, the base, and with how fun this figure is to pose, I would definitely say it's earned such a high score. So guys, that ends us there. Thanks for sticking around and watching the entire video. As always, this has been Jim Collector, and I hope to see you again real soon.